So in terms of for us, like around alignment and focus, I do believe for any type of startup, that's always what they're looking for is focus and alignment. The alignment is to bring focus, and then when you're all focused in this direction, you could just move in the same direction. In terms of picking the direction, I think that that is something that whether or not this is how it worked at our company is strategy really sat with the CEO in many ways, and a lot of times we would inform that. And that might be part of our culture in terms of how this worked really well for us. However, early on, because we're smaller, obviously there was a lot of inputs that could happen that ultimately the CEO would give maybe the product vision to the product manager, but in terms of the company, he would have kind of the final say, and that was just a bit of how our culture was set up. I think other companies can do it differently and very successfully as well. So an example for us, as I mentioned in one of the previous questions, is that Kabam and within the founders at the core, we've been very market-led, which caused us to be very adaptive. And so even early on, I remember our product manager, we would talk a lot about these features and what kind of features would we decide to do. And they were always had like business objectives behind it, right? So it was very much a question, what's the focus of this feature? Is it virality? Is it retention? Is it engagement? Or is it monetization? Like, what does that look like? And early on, as well as our earlier companies, tended to be focused that were non-games. So you could really focus on a web application that way. Obviously, as we got larger, there's more people to kind of bring on board, as well as for someone who's an individual contributor all the way to middle manager to executive, to really get them excited about where they are in this whole vision and mission. And I think at that point, that's when we were like, oh wow, our vision is going to be greater than ourselves, rather than just when we're smaller, we're just trying to survive, get some traction, get some product market fit, if you will. So as it got larger, while the strategy still sat with the CEO, he obviously wanted his executive team to help give some input to it. And what we would try to really focus on is that next layer, or what the CEO would really try to focus on is that next layer of his executive team. And then that executive team would try to focus in on their groups. And for that was the way we decided to execute our alignment, pros and cons to that. It's something that really worked for us as well. So as we got larger, we did have to introduce goals to help out with alignment. And at one point, which was something that became something that was always very memorable for people who worked at Kabam, is we would put a company trip goal. So we would set out a crazy goal. Sometimes it was oftentimes it was always to the performance of the company. If we were able to hit some type of target, then everyone in the company plus a guest would be able to go on this trip. And we've been to places like Tahoe, Las Vegas, Hong Kong, I think Mallorca, I think that's where the Europe team went. So just, it was just a really kind of united way to try to achieve a goal in many ways and get everybody rallied around the same page. So those are really examples of kind of like how it's moved in terms of what focus looks like when you're small and alignment looks like when you're small versus when you're big.